So welcome back to West End Resilience Live. So where is the year going? We are almost at the end of the summer. The children will be heading back to school in the coming weeks, and more workers are heading back into their offices. With that in mind, we'll be hearing from Jace Tyrrell, Chief Executive of New West End Company and New West End Company Marketing Director, Luciana Magliocco. They're joined by Leslie Finn, Senior Brand and Marketing Director at the Crown Estate. They'll be talking about the West End campaigns and initiatives to encourage the return of customers to the district over the coming months. It will, of course, be a question and answer session, and you can put your questions to the panel right now in the usual way before you even heard them speak, but probably better to hear a little from them by clicking on the question mark icon on your webinar window. But first, let's cross over to Jace to hear more about the local and national campaigning agenda. Over to you, Jace.
Martin, thank you, and good afternoon, everybody. It's terrific to be back in the office here on Regent Street, and also looking out my window in Heddon Street. Lots of activity and people enjoying the last of the Eat Out to Help Out happening across the West End, which is great to see. So we're 2 months in since we've reopened the West End, and it's still very fragile and very slow, as a lot of us know. And we are pleased, actually, on the weekend we hit 50% footfall returning to the West End. So that was a good milestone, but obviously a long way off our previous levels. And we've got to get through this year and into next year to get some of that customer demand back. And we know it's a challenge. Obviously, very few tourists here, and we won't see many of those returning till probably next year. And also our office workers, it's really important we start to see more of those return to the West End, and obviously spending in our retail and hospitality. So I'm really pleased today. We've got Luciana and Leslie who can talk about some of the campaigns and initiatives across the West End and on Regent Street to encourage our customers back to the area. And also I briefly want to touch on some of our lobbying agenda that many of you have been supporting as we work through the months ahead. So just on our lobbying agenda, there's sort of 5 key areas that we are pushing really hard on, and it's about driving customer demand back into the West End, but also helping you manage your costs and continue with some of those policies that's really going to help you over the next 12 to 8 months as we start to recover from COVID. And number 1 on our list is really clear messaging, particularly around the health risk, and actually thinking about Public Health England, whether more information can be provided in a daily dose of what the risk is where you live, where you're travelling to, and actually travelling itself, and making that information really unambiguous and clear so customers and colleagues can make really informed decisions around travelling and coming back into the West End. And our chairman, Sir Peter Rogers, is pushing this really hard through the London Transition Board to get better information and better public health information to Londoners. Number 2 is around the tube. We know from a lot of our research, customers feel really comfortable and safe when they come to the West End, safe in the stores, safe in the restaurants and the hotels, but it's travelling here on public transport, primarily tube and trains, but also buses. And we're talking to the Transport Commissioner and the Mayor on how they can get to perhaps 50% more capacity by the end of September this year, and really looking at the information and the management of that to really get the office worker particularly back into the West End. We also know that rates is a huge cost for West End businesses and all retail and hospitality businesses. So we are pushing really hard with a letter to the Chancellor this week on looking at extending the holiday on business rates beyond April next year, because we know that's a huge cost for West End businesses, and we need an answer now, not in April next year, on it, whether there's going to be a continuation of the holiday or some relief moving forward, and particularly relief and the continuation of relief for places like the West End that have such a high demand on international customers. The other area we're lobbying the government on is on tax-free shopping, which I think I've spoken to many members about in the past couple of weeks, on actually this opportunity with Brexit on the 1st of January for our European customers to come to the UK and to London and the West End and shop tax-free. And this requires just a slight change in the legislation to level up, because at the moment we'll be able to go to Europe and shop tax-free on the 1st of January, but we're going to miss that huge opportunity of European customers, 500 million of them coming here. And we do know actually for our recovery that European customers are going to be really important for us in the first part of 2021. So if you haven't signed up to the letter, there's still a couple of days to go. All the information on our website, and we would really encourage you to support our campaign to get the government to make sure tax-free shoppers can come to the UK and London next year. And then finally, and this is a really important one for the Mayor and the Prime Minister, we just need unambiguous and really clear messaging on coming back to work, getting back on public transport. And we really hope they listen to this and they start to move the message on to this point, because without that clear instruction, I fear it's going to be a much longer recovery period for the West End. So there's our lobbying agenda in sort of 3 or 4 minutes. Thank you to all of our members who have been supporting us on that. If there's anything further you'd like in terms of your own lobbying to support our agenda for the West End, please get in touch. And just a thank you for all that you're doing to reopen and support the West End recovery. So I'm happy now to hand over to Luciana, who's going to give you a snapshot and some detail with Leslie on all of the activity we're doing to get our customers back into the West End for the 6 months ahead. Luciana, over to you.
Thank you very much, Gies, and good afternoon to all of our members at New West End Company. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Luciana Magliocco, and I'm responsible for all consumer marketing at New West End Company. As Gies mentioned, over the course of the next 20 minutes or so, I will be bringing you through our planned marketing activity, which really has been designed to encourage visitors back into the West End, to entice them to shop with us once more, and predominantly to see cash back in your tills. The presentation I'm about to take you through will be twofold. I will begin by giving an overview of West End-wide activities that all members can get involved in. I'll then likely touch on what you can do as an Oxford Street member and a Bond Street member before handing it over to Leslie at the Crown Estate, who will really touch upon Regent Street specific activity. As Martin mentioned at the start of the seminar, we're really looking forward to hearing your questions, and we do strongly encourage you to send us them and ask us questions, because I think to get the best out of this session, it's really important that we equip you with the knowledge that you need to go back to your brands and ensure that you are part of our promotional programme over the next few months. Just touching again upon what Gies mentioned, it's looking like it'll be some time before our international customers return to the West End, but we've been sharp to pivot our activity to focus really on Londoners and local workers. And you'll see that come through as we bring you through each of our initiatives. They are very much the focus of our attention over the next 6 months. We will then look towards pivoting again to that international market. So if we can please begin the slideshow, that would be fantastic. Since reopening, our message and our approach has really been to reassure customers that the West End is not only open, but it is safe, secure and accessible. We have really focused on promoting our COVID secure measures, such as district-wide sanitisation points, alternative travel options and increased cycling bays. We have also been promoting the steps that you as brands have taken to provide a comfortable and enjoyable experience for customers. And this has been really critical to help soften and offset the fear and trepidation associated with travelling outside the comfort of customers' homes and communities. And we are really happy to see footfall starting to recover, as Gies mentioned, and we hope that this will continue as we shift our narrative towards a much more commercial tone. It's now about starting to re-engage customers with a sense of promotion of our incredible destination, but also our extensive, unrivaled and truly unique offering. So I'm really delighted to announce that this week we launched our #MyWestEnd advertising campaign with global media ahead of the upcoming bank holiday and payday weekend. Now, the aim of this campaign really has been to reinforce our incredible all-day offering credentials and put our destination firmly back in the front of Londoners' minds as the go-to destination for food, fashion, fun, art and culture, and really reminding them why it is so worth the journey in for. We strategically partnered with both Capital FM and Heart Radio to ensure maximum reach of Londoners. And we took out a fully integrated media package. So not only will you be hearing our message across radio, 35 times this week to be precise, But you'll also see this creative that you can see in front of you across all of their outdoor media sites. That's everything from Hammersmith, the borough of Kensington and Chelsea, to Camden, to Lambeth and Wandsworth. So a real good spread on that London captive audience. And then of course, all the way through to online. Now, for those of you who haven't been listening to either Capital or Heart FM, I'd like to take this opportunity just to play a snippet of Kelly Brooks, who has been involved in our presenter call-outs this week and really is a strong advocate of the West End herself. So fingers crossed everyone will get to hear this. I'm going to play it on my phone. If there are any issues, I will send as a follow-up.
Whether you're an art lover, fashion lover, food lover, or simply love a bit of fun, London's West End is waiting for you.
What I love most about the West End is that there's so much to do. You're just spoiled for choice. You can shop till you drop, you get a bit of culture at a gallery, and the restaurants, I find a new favourite every time.
For your chance to win the ultimate VIP West End experience for two, including a chauffeur for the day and hotel stay, go to heart.co.uk.
So we know that social reasons remain the largest motivator for Londoners to return to normal life. And so you'll hear from that snippet that our campaign narrative is really centred around the social sentiment. So really encouraging Londoners to explore and enjoy all of the delights that our brands have to offer. Experiences that really you can't get on your local high street. Products that you simply cannot buy on an e-commerce channel. And all of this can be experienced in a safe and secure environment. And truth be told, as many of you know, there really has never been a better time to visit the West End. With it being less busy, customers are really getting to have that one-on-one VIP experience with each of your store staff. So we do hope that you'll agree this messaging and creative is vibrant, exciting and enticing. It's worth mentioning that in addition to Global's activity, we on our own respective channels will be running a social media campaign where we will be inviting the same Londoners who are listening to our radio ads and seeing our advertisements on the side of the streets to come in and snap and share their My West End experience. So whether that's breakfast at the Brasserie of Light or a blow dry at Dyson's Demo Bar, a spot of personal styling at John Lewis, or cocktails at St Christopher's Place, or even popcorn at a movie at Selfridge's recently reopened cinema, we're really encouraging them to show us the great time they're having, and we will be able to report back on kind of results of this campaign in due course. Moving on to our second initiative. September will see the launch of the West End Club. I'm particularly proud of this initiative because it has been a long time in the making. The West End Club is our first ever West End-wide loyalty app, which will be offered exclusively to West End local workers within our district, but across all sectors. So you don't just have to work in professional services to be able to avail of this. You can work across retail and hospitality. So this is open to all of your colleagues as well. We've decided to launch in September, mid-September, to coincide with the anticipated reopening of many offices across the West End. And we're going to use this programme really to entice employees back into the West End and reward them for returning by offering them amazing exclusive value-add offers across fashion, dining, leisure and entertainment. We've had an amazing response to this programme, and I'm sure many of you who are listening in today are already signed up, and we're really grateful for that. For those of you who haven't, I would just like to take this moment to do a quick 5-minute elevator pitch, just to reinforce really the benefits of signing up to this programme, which you can also see on the slide. So the key benefits of joining our programme as an advertising brand is that it's a direct market communication platform. Being on our programme will ensure that customers have an increased brand consideration of your store, hotel or restaurant. It will increase footfall to your store and dwell time. It has been set up to drive incremental spend, repeat visits and brand advocacy. And also it's a really nice perk to offer your colleagues. I must just to reinforce that this is completely free to sign up for both you as brand participants, but also for West End offices. In terms of a functionality perspective, the app will have a really sophisticated UX journey, including GPS technology, so that users can access offers not only based on their interests and preferences, but also on what is nearest to where they are at that point in time. Another really important feature for us was a hassle-free redemption. So how this works is, upon entering your physical store, restaurant or a hotel, the user will be presented with a click to read button. They will then simply present this at the point of purchase to claim their offer. So we would like to reiterate that it's important that all of your store staff, hotel staff and waiters and waitresses are aware of the programme. They recognise this branding, which is on the right-hand side of the attached slide, so that they can activate those offers on the till at point of sale. Many of you might be wondering, how are we getting employees on this programme? How are we ensuring that you're speaking to the right customer? So what we'll be doing over the course of the next week is working really closely with major landlords across the West End and key managing agents, as well as head office contacts on your side, to ensure that they're aware of this free benefit for their employees and then offer it respectively. It can be easily offered through a link which goes directly to the employee's phone, or for those that don't have email addresses, we will have a QR code which can be scanned through a document which you can kind of stick up in your staff room. So that really does cater for all types of professions. Moving on to October, we'd like to lightly touch upon Westminster City Council's fantastic art and culture campaign known as Inside Out. From the 1st until the 3rd of October, an exhibition of art and culture has been designed to enliven the streets of Westminster and encourage football back into the West End. So this is where we want to really shout about our more than just fashion and food credentials and really celebrate the fact that we are such an iconic district that's steeped in heritage and culture, and we really want to encourage art lovers and culture lovers to come into the West End and then, as a result, eat and dine with you once they've seen their beautiful sculptures and installations. From a Mayfair perspective, my colleague Katie will be working with brands to feature some 20 sculptures from leading artists represented by key Mayfair galleries. Westminster will also be working with Westminster City Council will also be working with galleries, museums and cultural institutions to have those physical installations across the district. And then we ask retailers to potentially look at enlivening their windows or facades and even possibly projection mapping, which up until now hasn't been allowed, but will be catered for within this campaign. So I am the best point of contact to pick up with following this, and if you are interested in being involved, I will loop you up. I will loop you in with Richie Gibson, who's responsible for this at Westminster City Council. Moving on to November. So November will see the launch of our West End Concierge app. This is currently being designed and developed and is intended to act as an on-the-go pocket PA, really to enhance destination wayfinding and experience by helping shoppers easily navigate their way through our districts and ensuring that it's as convenient as possible. On the attached slide, you'll see some key features of the new Pocket Concierge, working title by the way. So similar to the West End Loyalty app, it will be completely GPS enabled, so shoppers and visitors will be able to route their journey based on your physical location. So we really need to work with all of your brand teams to ensure that we've got the correct location, correct opening hours, so that we are representing your information correctly. We would also like to work with your in-house teams to ensure that we are integrating any of your bookable services. So whether that is book a personal stylist, reserve a table, stay in a hotel overnight, we'd really like to work with you so that we can link directly through API technology to your services and ensure they are being used. Beyond that, we'll be looking at integration of hands-free shopping, tax-free shopping, and also live transport information and the ability to order taxis for pickup and drop off. So this really, we do feel, will be a real game changer for West End customers and will offer them a sense of service beyond our traditional online websites. We will be getting in touch with each of you over the coming weeks to ensure that you are correctly presented on this app, and if you do have any of those bookable services, that they're absolutely represented as well. Moving on to Christmas. I feel I'm almost ready for Christmas now that John Lewis has opened its Christmas shop. So, and it's reassuring to see that searches for Christmas were up triple the amount on last year. So we're feeling very confident about Christmas here at New West End Company. We feel there's a built up anticipation to get back in and spending for the Christmas spirit and just have a reason to feel good again. So for Christmas, what are we looking at doing? As always, it's always a key focus of us to position the West End as the go-to destination for all things festive across fashion, dining, leisure, and real magical experiences. For Oxford Street in particular, we will launch a nationwide campaign inviting the public to nominate their frontline hero for the chance to appear in our Oxford Street Christmas lights. So this is a really, really iconic moment to be had for those worthy of the prize. And we're really excited by this campaign. We feel it's exactly the right sentiment, and for us as a destination, it's really important that we acknowledge all of the hard work that frontline workers undertook over lockdown and continue to do so today. And it's a nice seamless continuation of our current Thank You Heroes flags on the street. So we're really excited to launch that. Dates to be confirmed. From a Bond Street perspective, and again, Katie Thomas will be leading this, we'll be looking to collaborate with a high-profile designer or decorator to dress Bond Street's Christmas tree. Katie will also be working with ITV on a documentary that follows how the designer was inspired, what baubles they choose, the setting up of the tree and the switch on. So it'll be a really beautifully curated programme, and also shines the light again back on Bond Street. In addition to this, we will launch the second phase of our My West End advertising campaign with Global, but of course shifting the narrative to all things Christmas. And if that wasn't enough, we'll be running a series of tactical activities to drive footfall and spend into your store. So we will be getting in touch with you to find out when your windows are going live, what your opening hours are, what are you doing that's different this year, have you got your festive rooftops, what's your fashion lines looking like, any exciting product, etc. So we will be getting in touch with you to ensure that you are well represented in our Christmas campaign. Finally, I just wanted to remind everyone, and we're probably going to skip through the next slide if that's possible and go straight on to Always On promotion. Finally, just to let everyone know that we do, beyond these kind of key marketing initiatives and campaigns, have an Always On promotional channel. And this is really your opportunity to see this as an extension of your promotional platforms, to inform us of new product, new content, new offers, new events. We are really only as strong of a destination as the brands that stand behind us. And in order to win back customers, our offering has to be really enticing, relevant and fresh. So we're asking you to please send us the richest of content you have. We have lots of different platforms that we'll be promoting this across, whether it's our customer websites, our bi-monthly newsletters, our social media channels, the WeChat mini programme, or indeed platforms owned by Visit London. We will be absolutely shouting and showcasing your brand's message on these Always On channels. Leslie will obviously bring you through how you can get involved from a Regent Street perspective, but I really did just want to flag that. So just to summarise, and I know that's a lot of information to take in, if I was to ask you for 3 takeouts, they would be as follows. Please, if you have not already done so, get involved in our West End Club. It is an automatic direct to market promotional platform for those ever so important local workers. If you want them back eating in your restaurants, if you want them back shopping in your store, this is the platform that will help you achieve that. Beyond that, it's really important that you send great content for our always on channels. And finally, we really want you to start thinking about what you can do that's slightly different to before this Christmas, so that we can give a fresh reason for customers, and that is Londoners, local workers, and actually domestic tourists to get on a train, come into London and experience the magic of the West End. So without further ado, I'd like to pass you on to Leslie at the Crown Estate to speak of Regent Street specific activity. Thank you.
Thanks, Luciana, and thanks, Jace. I really appreciate the opportunity to join you today and talk all of our mutual customers through our plans for the rest of the year. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Leslie Flynn. I work at the Crown Estate and I'm part of the brand and marketing team who look after our fantastic destinations of Regent Street and St. James. And what I'll do today is take you through our always on channels, both how we've been supporting you through lockdown and as we've started to reopen, as we continue to reopen and re-invite people back to the West End, and then through our autumn, winter and Christmas campaigns and intentions. So if we go to the presentation, you'll see, first of all, from lockdown onwards, we've been very busy, and our always on channels, social media, our newsletters and our websites have been incredibly busy in keeping you and the destinations top of mind. We had a campaign that was ready to launch when everybody went into lockdown called Behind Our Doors, which was intended to be both an experiential on-the-ground campaign and digital. And we pivoted that quite quickly to become a digital-only campaign that was boosted with spend to give people an insight into what was happening or what would normally be happening behind the doors of our iconic destinations on Regent Street and St. James. We've also been highlighting the takeaway and DIY offers that our incredible businesses have pivoted to offer during lockdown while they weren't able to welcome people to their destinations. And we amplified this through partnerships with Time Out and London on the Inside, as well as Visit London. Moving on, as we reopened through July and August, our always on channels were still incredibly busy, and we shifted to a focus on key search terms that people were looking for, such as Eat It to Help Out, which we know has been incredibly successful for a number of our customers. Things like the edit of best face masks and where to get them in Regent Street and St. James, and staycations around London for Londoners and other people from the outside of that in the UK. Upcoming new openings, which we do have online for September and October, are great good news stories, which we will be able to share on our channels to invite people back and give them something a bit fresh and new to experience, and give them that added reason to come back to central London. Barry's Boot Camp on Kingly Street will be opening very shortly, and they've been doing a huge amount to promote that. Bike Drop, which is a commuter bike hub where it's essentially a bike valet. You can drop off your bike, fits perfectly with new messaging, and as Jason mentioned earlier, people's slight reticence about public transport gives people an alternative and a great way to get to the West End. And other retailers such as Skechers and Laderack are joining us as well. We'll also be using our channels to reassure customers and consumers, encouraging travel in central London and driving that desire for a return to the West End as things start to reopen. We've also been collaborating a lot with New West End Company, as Luciana mentioned, as well as other partners. So we've supported the Because I'm a Londoner campaign, which was hosted by Visit London. This was really to focus on reasons to come back into central London, reasons to get out and explore, as you might not if you're a Londoner and are used to seeing central London with crowds and tourists. It was a really nice opportunity to message a different way to explore things, and they've been doing some great content around that, featuring our destinations. The My West End campaign, again, as Luciana mentioned, which we've contributed imagery to and will be supporting across our channels. The West End Loyalty Programme, which is a very important pillar for all of you. I'd highly encourage you to get involved, and we will be supporting that by pushing that out to all of our office workers and retail workers who we have on our database through JLL. And also, we'll be working with you, and I would encourage you to get in touch about this. We have always used influencers, but we would like to make more use of our on-the-ground influencers and our teams who are on the street, while there is the additional space and capacity to be messaging about the destination, making sure that we're using our shared hashtags and really kind of having that shared voice and cut through against other destinations outside of central London. Then moving forward and looking ahead into our autumn-winter campaigns, we're focusing on 3 key pillars, which will be fashion, arts and culture, and food and beverage. We will be starting in September with continuing our partnership with the BFC for London Fashion Week in September. Similar to their June event, it will be digitally focused and gender neutral, so it'll be open to everyone. It will continue to build our central London portfolio as a fashion-focused destination, which is great, and it provides a really good platform for both B2B and B2C exposure. From an arts and culture perspective, Luciana again mentioned Inside Out, which is being led by Westminster City Council, and we will be getting involved in that and encouraging you, our customers, to get involved in that as well. St James will be hosting the Silver Lining Public Art Trail, which will be part of Inside Out as well. And we will also be home to a destination for London Craft Week, highlighting a programme of events, talks, and a 300-piece exhibition to show off our destination and our customers as great destinations for craftsmanship. And last but not least, we've partnered with London Restaurant Festival. We've partnered with them for a number of years to great success. They are a really excellent partner because of their contacts and database. They always work with a very high value media partner in order to get the word out about this. They've also got contacts with Amex and market this to high net worth individuals, so they're great to get people back into central London and dining, especially with that increased one-to-one service, a little bit of extra space that you've got. And the festival this year will also have social distancing measures in place and be promoting take-home and DIY kits. So it really kind of covers all ends of the spectrum. And following on from that, we will be leading quite quickly into Christmas. So as always, we will have our Christmas lights. The spirits will return on the 19th of November. We will be having a softer switch on. So rather than having the big crowd or encouraging people to come back in volume as we normally would, this is very much about promoting the sense of the spirit of Christmas. We are aware from consumer sentiment reporting that there's a real divide between those who are really excited about Christmas as an opportunity to sort of throw off the shackles of lockdown and celebrate. It gives us that opportunity to look forward to, and those who are more worried and concerned from both from a financial point of view and also that it may not be like Christmas as it passed. So with the spirit of Christmas messaging, I think it's a great opportunity for us and our customers to really latch onto that, really reassure people, give them an opportunity to come down for our experiences, and we will be having a shopping evening on the 19th of November to support that with very light touch activations on the street. So it'll be things like live music, maybe a choir or some roving musicians, and the intent is really to make it as beautiful and as we can in a socially distanced and responsible way. We'll also follow that on with the 6-week marketing campaign to support footfall and spend. Last year we had a Surprise and Delight campaign, which was incredibly successful. All of our customers who participated reported that they had a huge uplift from seeing those people come back into store with either the gift certificates or the redemptions, and increased sales off the back of that. So we'll be looking to do that again. I'm pleased to get in touch with if you're interested in participating. We're also exploring additional road closures throughout November and December, again to support the socially distanced shopping and just give people that extra opportunity to enjoy our spaces in a way that they couldn't normally. And of course, all of this will be supported across our always on channels through social media, digital partnerships and influencers. So that wraps it up from my side of things. I will pass back to Luciana and Jace.
In fact, you're passing back to me, but thank you very much indeed for all of those contributions. Just a reminder that we do want your Q&A. We want your questions. We'll give the answers. All you need to do is click on the question mark icon and then enter your question and hit on the send key, and then we'll put them to the relevant people. I'll be crossing over to some of the questions in a moment. But before we go to the questions, this isn't a question, but it's from Gareth 18, who's the chair of Oxford Street Management Group, and he says, not a question, but a huge thank you to Jace, Luciana and the new West End Company team for the continued support to the street. The marketing activity looks fantastic and should really help us all recover. Well done all. So thank you, Gareth, for your thanks. Let's cross to the first question from Charlie Howard. And I think this is probably for you, Luciana, to start off with. Did you consider combining the two apps into one, i.e. the West End Club and the Concierge?
Great question, Charlie. We actually are using the technology from the Concierge app and deploying it over from the loyalty app and deploying it over to the Concierge. So we're using the same technology. However, it wasn't right for us to combine both initiatives, because if you think the West End Loyalty Club or the West End Club is predominantly and exclusively only open to West End local workers, whereas the Concierge app is open to everyone and really places a particular emphasis on international visitors and domestic visitors who don't really know the area as well as a local worker. So we're taking the best bits of the technology, but keeping them as separate entities which speak and deliver to separate audiences.
Okay, Luciana, another one here, I think for you, is from somebody who is remaining anonymous, but we'll put it to you anyway. Is there an opportunity for brands to get involved in the current global campaign to drive traffic to specific stores?
Great question again. So the global campaign went live this week insofar as our overarching messaging and creative. However, each of our dedicated websites do have the opportunity for inclusion in our editorial spreads. So if you go on the Oxford Street website, for example, you'll be able to see the best bits of Oxford Street to include in your itinerary. So we can absolutely support you from an online editorial perspective. We'd also really love to include any images that you have on our social media feeds. So yes, you can absolutely still get involved, and please send those details to me and we'll get you up and running as soon as possible.
I'd like to bring Leslie in on this question, and I know that you actually touched on this, Leslie, in your presentation, but I think it's probably worth making the point again to this question. When will you be switching on the lights this year in the district? I'm assuming they're meaning the Christmas lights. And how do you plan to ensure social distancing is adhered to during these times, given the usual huge crowds? And as I say, I know that you did make a reference to that, but if you could remind us of what's happening re the Christmas lights.
Sure, thanks, Martin. What I'm going to do is suggest that we tag team this with Luciana and I, because I think there'll be a slightly different answer for Oxford Street and the rest of the district. But for Regent Street, the switch on will be the 19th of November. It will be very much a soft switch on, so we won't be having a big stage show as we have in previous years. It'll be very much about having a low level activity on the street, a really beautiful shopping experience. We are also working on, as you'll have seen if you have been to Regent Street, there are social distancing measures with the expanded pavements, and we are working with Westminster to continue that through the Christmas season. So those measures and those mitigations should still be in place, and there may be more of them as we go into that season, because we are very aware that with more people coming back, that it's even more important to make sure that they can feel safe and distanced as they shop for Christmas.
Yeah, and just to add to that, Leslie, yep, my mic's on. Just to add to Leslie's point, we're actually also working really closely with Westminster City Council, who've actually devised an entire new manual which is totally focused around executing experiential activity with social distancing in mind. So we'll be absolutely making sure that happens on Regent Street alongside Leslie. And also from an Oxford Street perspective, we won't be pre-promoting the switch on as we have done in the past. So like Leslie has said, it'll all be about that surprise and delight moment, and that'll almost be our PR moment to encourage then the start of footfall into the West End across that 8-week period. And from a switch on date on Oxford Street, as ever, we are looking at going on just after Halloween, but we're just looking at sentiment at the moment. But it's likely that we'll go on at the start of November and then be followed by Bond Street and Regent Street. So hopefully that's answered your questions.
That's great, thank you. Just a reminder, I'm going to bring Jason in a moment, but before I bring Jason, just a reminder, you can put your questions to any of the panel just by clicking on the question mark icon and typing it in there. But to Jace, you mentioned a number of campaigns at the beginning, Jace. From those different campaigns which you mentioned at the beginning, what would you say is your biggest priority?
Thanks, Martin. I think for us, there's a real pressure on costs, as we know, because I think, of course, we want customers to come back. And I think from all of our research and I guess the anxiety around our customers, that's going to take a bit of time. But the cost pressure is so real. And if you think about a normal year in the West End, we will turn over 10 billion. We think that's going to be closer to sort of 2 or 3 billion this year from March onwards. So it's significant losses and really, really acute for us in the centre of London. So I think rates is the top issue for us at the moment, because actually businesses can't wait until March next year if we're going to have the continuation of the rates holiday. They need to know now, next week, are we going to have that continuation of rates relief? And that will be the decisions on perhaps store closures or not, and also redundancies. So rates is our top issue at the moment for city centres like the West End all around the country. And I'm pleased to say a lot of the national bodies are really supporting us on that. And members will have an opportunity to write to the Chancellor like we've done this week, which we're sending out some more information tomorrow on that. The second one, which is a little bit more time, but not really, is tax-free, because actually the 1st of January is 4.5 months away. And we need to know again that Europeans can come and shop tax-free. So business rates and tax-free are our top priorities for lobbying at the moment.
Okay, thank you, Jace. Luciana, there was a mention of influencer and social media days out. Do you have further information on these and what brands can do to get involved?
Yes, absolutely. So we're currently just reviewing which social influencers are right for our districts. It's likely that we will choose social influencers based on the identity of our districts. So Bond Street will have a set, and Oxford Street will have a set. And I'm sure, Leslie, please do tag along after this from a Regent Street perspective. We'll look to bring out the influencer trips on 2 occasions. London Fashion Week, obviously iconic in the Fashionistas' diary, so it's a real great chance for us to shout about our fashion credentials. And then we'll look to do more activity in November to align with our overarching festive offering messaging. So we will be getting in touch with brands. As always, we would be asking for experiences and gifting in kind, and you'll always get, of course, inclusion in all of their promotions. So it's worth being involved in those itineraries, and that'll be everything from overnight stays to cocktails to dining to kind of beautiful handbag giveaways. So yes, the answer is yes. We really want you to be involved and host.
Leslie, do you have anything to add to that, or not? Don't feel you have.
Yeah, basically what Luciana said, and if you do want to get involved in the influencers or any of our campaigns, please use, I believe, I don't know if anyone can see the slide, but at the end of the presentation, there will be email addresses to contact. Ours is rsr@tcs-uk.net if you want to get involved in any of the Regent Street specific campaigns.
Okay, this is one, it requires a bit of a crystal ball, so I'm going to hand it over to Jace. I'm not sure if you've got your crystal ball ready and polished to look into, Jace, but do you have any insight as to when workers will start coming back to the West End?
Let me just dig deep for the crystal ball by my desk here to try and help with that one. But look, we're doing a lot of polling recently, and actually we've got some results out tomorrow. And I hate to say, the sentiment to come back is only sort of 15–20% in the next month, so it's still very fragile, and actually there isn't a huge rush to come back. But I think from some of the government polling that we've heard, people feel very safe. They're going to the office and they think their employers are actually making it very safe. So it comes back to my point earlier, safe in the office, safe in the retail and the restaurants. That's not the issue. The issue is transport. So I think if we can unlock this Public Health England messaging and get more capacity on the tube and trains particularly, that's going to give some more confidence. But from the numbers that we've been looking at, we think sort of 30 to 40% is probably where we're going to get to with office demand and coming back this side of Christmas. So obviously we need to be pushing our tourists, domestic tourists and other markets to help drive some of that gap, that huge gap that we're missing from our office customers not returning in full this side of December.
If you could stay with us, Jace, for this next question. Karen is asking, and she does preference it with difficult to predict, but you've got your crystal ball there, so we should be fine. But what is your best guesstimate of what footfall will be like in November, December? What insight can we gather here to help retailers plan?
Well, it's interesting because obviously international is a big part of our mix, but international is all year round. Obviously in the summer we have a big Middle East client base and Europeans. So interesting, in November, December, we have a lot more UK domestic markets. So I think the view is we will have Londoners back in the West End and also more of the domestic market. And particularly if these air bridges are still operating, it means UK customers may not want to leave the UK and actually come to the West End at Christmas, which obviously is why it's really important for our Christmas lights to really dazzle and remind our UK customers how wonderful the West End can be at Christmas. So I think we're not going to have as many tourists, but we can make up some of that with domestic. But as I said earlier, I hate to say, but we're looking at around 3 billion sales this year. So we're still going to have significantly less people back in the West End at Christmas. But our numbers, we hopefully will be up to about 2/3 back. So obviously we're at 50% now. I think for Christmas also, we need to think very hard about boycotting Black Friday. I don't think we want to have huge numbers on one big burst. We need to think about how we spread Christmas and bring Christmas early, which I know the marketing guys are looking at, of how we can get that messaging. It's a 2-month campaign, not a 2-week campaign. So that's going to be really important as well.
Okay, thanks, Jace. Let's bring Leslie back in. Re the switch on Regent Street. Will some brands be allowed to have animation on the pedestrianised streets again this year?
We would love to explore that with you. I think it's been really successful for the brands who have done it in previous years. So absolutely. For those Regent Street customers, we will be having a street social coming up at the end of September where we can talk more about that. Again, if you want to get involved in the campaigns in any way that we've talked about, please do email the email address that will be referenced at the end of the presentation.
Okay, thank you, Leslie. Let's bring Luciana back in. An anonymous question here. For the West End Club, how is membership controlled so as not to have abuse of the discount offers?
Yeah, really actually important question, and something that played a critical role in our development and design path. So from a kind of a firewall protection perspective, we've decided that each organisation will have its own unique reference code. So when we sign up an organisation, let's pretend Sony, for example, Sony will have an employee reference code that's attached to the Sony brand. At the very first point of sign up, you will have to enter in your address. We will have to validate that you are in fact operating within the W1 district. Then we will generate your unique company code. You will then get a unique employee code. So we've got lots and lots of measures in place, because what we absolutely don't want to do is in any way kind of damage your bottom line through every man and his dog using this and sharing it with their friends. So if Google on Tottenham Court Road is using the programme, it's only the Googlers at that location. They can't share it on to their King's Cross colleagues because the unique code won't work. I know it's a bit complex. I hope I've explained it clearly enough. But again, please drop us a line if you want any more information on that.
It sounds to me like you've thought it through nice and clearly. So let's cross over again to Jace, and a question here from someone who hasn't given their name, but they want an update on lobbying the Mayor of London for free travel in September, as talked about previously. Is there any update on that, Jace?
Not a confirmation, but actually really good discussions with our bid colleagues, so Heart of London or other Westminster bids, with the chair, Heidi Alexander, who's the chair of Transport for London, with the mayor. And I think they're not closing that down. They think it's a good idea, because actually a lot of their research suggests that ripping that band-aid off and making that first trip back is actually getting a change of behaviour. And one way to incentivise that is free travel for your first trip back. So it's not a no from the mayor and TfL. Certainly our London minister, Paul Scully, who we talk to almost on a daily basis, he's our retail and London minister, really thinks it's a great idea as well. So watch this space. You know, it'd be great to have something for September to really encourage people back into the West End for leisure trips, obviously, and back to the office. But also we've encouraged the government to think Eat Out to Help Out has been terrific. I mean, it's such a brilliant response. And I know people like Grosvenor and other partners in the West End are looking to extend that for their restaurants for another month. So maybe we'll see more of that with our partners in the West End. But we need a shop out to help out. And really, we'd like to see that this October, particularly with half term and getting into Halloween. So we're still pushing hard for some sort of shop out to help out equivalent, and then into Christmas as well. But we'll keep you informed the moment we hear. And any other ideas you've got, please share them with us, because we are talking to these politicians almost every day, and I think they are keen to hear ideas to help get the West End back going again.
Jace, thank you. One last question, and this is back to Luciana, I think. For the Inside Out campaign, is there an opportunity for shops to work with artists to host an installation in store that is then promoted throughout the campaign as an installation to look out for?
Yeah, so firstly, from a promotional perspective, anyone who does get involved in the exhibition will be promoted across Westminster, London and Partner, and some media channel platforms that are all included in the package. From a collaboration perspective, being honest, it's quite late in the day for us to kind of create collaborative partnerships. However, what's worked really well for us in the past is actually passing it back on to you and saying, who have you worked in the past? Who do you feel would be a great synergy for this style of campaign? And so, you know, H&M do incredible designer collaborations. Could they bring one of their designers on for the Inside Out campaign? Selfridges run extraordinary collaborations from their creative perspective. Can they bring those designers to the table? So I think all cards are on the table for next year, and we do hope it will return next year. But I think for this year, our encouragement would be that you look in within your own context and see if there's any collaborations that you can bring to life and that your brand can stand behind.
Luciana, thank you very much indeed, and thank you to all our speakers for joining us today, and for all those who joined and asked questions. For next month's West End Resilience Live, we'll be welcoming Hugh Millward, Director of Corporate, External and Legal Affairs at Microsoft. He's also a new West End Company Board member. With many businesses announcing job losses, redundancies and restructurings following the impact of COVID-19, Hugh will be discussing upskilling, reskilling and different learning paths and resources available on topics such as resilience, emotional intelligence and interview techniques in our increasingly digital world. Join us for that if you can. Until then, goodbye.